What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel. It's time to look ahead to tomorrow's game in Rotterdam against Feyenoord. It's Europa League match day 5, and the debate getting into this game is whether Celtic should start prioritising domestic football over European competition, given how it's gone so far. The last time out in match day 4, we took a heavy defeat against Midtjylland, and it leaves us in a difficult position in the Europa League. I think we need 6 points from these next 4 games, which on paper doesn't sound like a lot. That would give us the best chance of, I think, progressing in some way, probably finishing in that top 24. But those next 4 games are relatively difficult games, and it's very hard to see where Celtic get those points from. We've got Feyenoord away tomorrow, we've got Roma at home. Up next, we go to Bologna in January, and then we've got that final home game as well to round off the campaign. So it's not impossible, but it's very difficult with how Celtic have played this season in European competition to see how that be possible, and that has led people to saying things like, should we just try and rest some key players with big domestic games coming up, Hibs at the weekend? But that is equally depressing, because to be in October, middle of November now, and already be talking about writing off European competition is not a great place for a club like Celtic to be. In other news, though, it looks like Wilfried Nancy is going to be the next Celtic manager. It looks like it will be confirmed at some point over the next few days, maybe into the weekend. The talk is that his first game will be in charge against Dundee next Wednesday at Celtic Park. So I covered Wilfried Nancy in detail in the video I did looking at the candidates a couple of weeks back. If you haven't watched that, I will link it up at the end for you to go and see a bit more detail around my thoughts on him. The last couple of days I've been in Manchester. I've watched 2 different back 3 systems live in person. On Monday night I was at Old Trafford, where Everton beat Man United 1-0 with 10 men. I didn't think Man United played very well at all. I couldn't believe, I know that Ruben Amorim, that's his way, and he persists with it. I couldn't believe he kept 3 centre halves on the pitch. Luke Shaw being one of those, but late in the second half when they're chasing a goal against 10 men, I just don't think it helped them at all. And then Bayer Leverkusen at the Etihad last night, 2-0 winners against Man City, albeit Man City rotated quite a lot, but you had Man United on Monday with 75% of the ball, can't break down Everton, who didn't come to press them in that setup. And then last night, City pressing Leverkusen, and them being well set up in their sort of 3-4 or 3-1-4-2, I believe the Leverkusen system looked most like. But I think the thing with back 3 is that if a team comes to press, it can be very, very good for you. So it's going to be interesting to see how Wilfried Nancy sets up the team if and when he arrives, particularly for those domestic games where Celtic don't generally get pressed high up the pitch. But like I say, if you want to go and hear my thoughts on in more detail, if you haven't already, it's best to go and watch that video, because we don't have time to run through all of that tonight. If and when we get an announcement on the next Celtic manager, I'll try and get some of the boys on to get their thoughts on it as well. This video is brought to you in partnership with FPro, the ultimate football training app. Winter is fast approaching, and in Scotland that means long dark nights and frozen pitches, but with FPro your child can take their game to the next level. FPro guides you through over 110 professional exercises to help you achieve technical excellence and master the fundamentals of the game that every player needs. FPro is used by players from the top academies across Europe, and it only takes 20 minutes a day to see real progress. You can track your performance, compete against your pals in the app to move up the leaderboard, and earn rewards as you improve as well. Whether it's inside or out in the garden, the FPro dribbling mat and app can help you maximise your skills. So if you have a son or a daughter, a niece, a nephew that's football daft, and you're looking for Christmas gift inspiration, FPro is the one. You can get 20% off with the code Celtic20 via the link in the description of this video. Thank you. Let's get back to it. Now, last thing before we turn our attention to tomorrow's game is the results of the AGM, in which all motions to keep all directors and non-executive directors were passed with 99% of the vote. Now, that works with 1 share equaling 1 vote. Now, we know that a very high percentage of Celtic shares are held by very few number of people, and we have this situation where they are able to re-elect themselves, and not just the people on the board, but their close allies on the board who have been their close allies for decades. So we have this situation where they're not accountable to the shareholders really, because they can vote to keep each other and re-elect each other every single year. They're certainly not accountable to the supporters, and they also, when they make mistakes, they tell us that they'll do an internal review. And again, at risk of repeating myself, they are in the process of repeating the same errors season after season, summer after summer, when it comes to doing recruitment in an efficient, modern way. And it looks like there'll be no change there. I am a bit alienated by everything that's happened. I am exhausted trying to debate with people who still can't see any fault in the Celtic board. I don't really know where to go with that, but I know this doesn't make for the best content. So for tonight, we'll turn our attention to Feyenoord, who are not in great shape themselves. They will have a section of their stadium closed tomorrow night. I remember going to Feyenoord back 2 seasons ago in the Champions League. It was a really good atmosphere. We lost 2-0 on the night. We went down to 9 men, if you remember. So I think having a portion of the stadium closed will sort of reduce the hostility of the atmosphere for the players. This Feyenoord team looks very, very different to Arne Slot's team that we played 2 years ago in the Champions League. They've lost a lot of big players. Geertruida, who was the captain, has gone. Hanko, who was a key centre-half for them, has left the club. He's at Atletico Madrid now. Stengs is away on loan. Pak Shao has gone. Jimenez up front. All of those. So that sort of spine of the team has left, and it looks like a very different side now under Robin van Persie. And they are struggling. They have won 1 game in their last 5 in all competitions. They lost 4-2 at home to NEC on Sunday. They're 6 points off the pace at the top of the Eredivisie. PSV lead the way there, and in the Europa League they're also struggling. They find themselves 1 point behind Celtic coming into this game. That's 1 win and 3 defeats from their opening 4 games in this competition. So it's fair to say that they're not in great shape. And to come back to that debate about whether Celtic should just forget about this competition and prioritise the domestic football, this is a Feyenoord side who we should be able to go and give a really good game and try and get something from it. They're not in great shape, they're not in great confidence, but I do balance that with the Celtic you can see with your eyes at the minute. This is not a Celtic team that looks capable in European football in any way, shape or form. So in the ideal world, this is a situation where you think it's relatively rare to get Feyenoord in a run like this. Again, the situation with the part of the stadium closed as well. You think those are ingredients that can give Celtic a chance to go and get a result tomorrow, but you cannot see it with the options that Celtic have got and the state of the squad this season and how we've coped in these European games. It's very, very difficult to see how we get a result tomorrow. Thinking about us coming into this game off the back of the weekend's performance at St Mirren, terrible performance. We got the points in the end due to a brilliant goal from the captain. I think on another day, you've watched a lot of games where Celtic have been poor and you've thought, you always believe something can happen towards the end of the game. I think at the weekend it was so poor that I didn't see a goal coming, but as soon as Callum McGregor received the ball, that was when I thought something could happen here, because he showed a real intent to just drop his shoulder, get inside, get himself a yard of space and smash it into the top corner. It was a great goal, much needed. And of course Hearts then got beat at Pittodrie on Sunday, so it was a positive weekend for us overall. But again, the performance level and the way the team ended up with the changes that were made and the square pegs and round holes that we had all over the pitch does leave you a bit concerned moving forward. But let's turn our attention to the lineup for tomorrow. Martin O'Neill doesn't really have too many options, again, to come back to that debate about trying to rest players and trying to prioritise domestic football. If that's your opinion, there's not a lot of rotation that you can do because of the lack of availability in numerous areas of the pitch. So we'll start with Kasper Schmeichel in goals. I expect the back four to be Ralston, Trusty, Scales and Tierney. I don't think Sriracha will be fit and available. He's missed the last couple of games. Maybe he will be. I think he was back in training this morning before the team left for Rotterdam, but whether or not he'll be in a shape to start is another matter. I would like to see Donovan start at right back. I just think Martin O'Neill, given how little he's used Colby Donovan so far, will persist with Anthony Ralston, maybe for experience, but I think Ralston has really struggled recently. Not a good performance at the weekend again. And again, if you think back to the Michelin game, really struggled defensively down that right-hand side. So that would be an area of concern for us. But again, with Johnston out, we are limited because it's Ralston or Donovan, and Donovan is inexperienced. And Ralston, again, we've seen a lot of him, and we know where he stands in terms of his level. Now, midfield, Callum McGregor, who I think in difficult circumstances has led the team very well recently. I think his performances have been good recently. He scored important goals, the one in extra time at Hampden against Rangers, and arguably none more important than that strike against St Mirren at the weekend to get us a vital 3 points with what was basically the last kick of the game. I think that was the first meaningful shot on target that we mustered over 94 minutes as well. So it was a great goal. We needed it, and good on him for pulling the team out of the fire on Saturday night. In front of him, I'm going Hatate and Nygren. Nygren didn't start at the weekend. Maybe that was because he's just back from international duty. I just think the combination of Nygren and Engels and Michelin really struggled. So I've gone for Hatate back in there, who again hasn't covered himself in glory in these European games so far. But let's hope we get one of the better performances from Hatate. I think his Celtic career now in its fourth, maybe fifth year almost. We know where Hatate is at with this consistency. You just never know what you're going to get, and actually the really good performances have become less and less frequent as he's went on through his time at Celtic. But let's hope we get something like a good performance tomorrow. I'm going for Dyson on the right hand side, Tenekte on the left, and Johnny Kenny through the middle. I think there's probably a good argument to be made for, again, we're in the same position every week, a good argument to be made for just putting Dyson through the middle and putting someone else out there on the right hand side. Who that would be? Would it be Nygren on the right hand side and Engels into midfield? It doesn't look like it'll be James Forrest starting games anytime soon, certainly not in Europe. So again, centre forward and right wing are huge headaches for us. I've just gone with Dyson on the right hand side, Johnny Kenny, as I say, through the middle. He was hooked at half time on Saturday night. Johnny Kenny, a very poor first half, but that's the position we find ourselves in. We're so limited in quality and options, and I think that means he may well get the nod tomorrow. Again, left hand side, Tenekte, a lot of discussion about his output, which I think has been disappointing. He does flatter to deceive at times. On the first few appearances that he had in a Celtic jersey, we were all sort of encouraged by what we saw from him. He's bright, he's got good technical ability, he can beat a defender, he's a good dribbler, but I think the end product, the crosses, the passes, the goals, I think he's 2 goals in his 14 appearances so far, and 0 assists. So it is that end product that people are really starting to question. And I think given where we've been and how desperate we've been for some sort of attacking inspiration, we may well have got carried away with Tenekte early doors. But still a young guy, can still develop, but I just think he's got to start doing more when he gets in those key positions, because he does see so much of the ball during the game. But like I say, he's doing very little with it when it gets into those important areas where you have to impact the game. You have to get something from working the ball into those key areas. There you go. That's the 11 I think Martin O'Neill might go with tomorrow. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and I'll be back with you for the full-time reaction after the game. Thank you.